Hi folks, and welcome to Idris Astrology. Today we are going to discuss a simple chart from a horary astrology textbook, and I'll be comparing how the techniques that I use in my professional practice measure up to those of the authors. This chart is listed under Second House Matters, which in horary astrology pertains to finances and possessions. Let's dive into a clear-cut chart with the question, when will she pay me? According to the author, this inquiry comes from someone who did some work for a friend and is awaiting payment. She trusts the friend, but suspects that she may have simply forgotten to pay. The chart was cast on the 2nd of February 2016 at 9:04 p.m. in Greece, and we have 23 Virgo on the ascendant. As with every chart, the first step is to determine the relevant houses. The querent, or person asking the question, gets the first house. The querent's pocket is the second house. The friend gets the 11th. And similarly to how the querent's money is the second house from the first, the friend's money is the turned second from the 11th, or in other words, the radical 12th. Now that we've identified the relevant houses, we can see which planets will represent the characters of this situation in the chart by looking at the lords of the houses. Here, the cusp of the first house is in Virgo, whose lord is Mercury, so the querent is represented by Mercury. The second house is in Libra, whose lord is Venus, so the querent's pocket is represented by Venus. The 11th house is in Cancer, whose lord is the moon, so the friend is represented by the moon. The 12th house is in Leo, whose lord is the sun, so the friend's money is represented by the sun. Now that we've identified the characters, we can analyze their current positions to see what's going on and their movement to see what is likely to happen. An aspect between the querent or her pocket and the friend or her pocket will give us the event of the friend paying the money. So we have the querent in her pocket in Capricorn, the friend in Sagittarius, and her pocket in Aquarius. Immediately we can see that none of the significators of the friend behold that of the querent. A planet beholding another means that the planet can see the other. With the zodiac being a 360-degree circle, the angles at which a planet is blind to another are 30 and 150. For instance, a planet in Sagittarius cannot see another in Scorpio, Capricorn, Cancer, or Taurus. Or a planet in Aquarius cannot see another in Pisces, Capricorn, Cancer, or Virgo. So here, the moon cannot see Venus or Mercury, and the sun can't see Venus or Mercury either. They're too close to be seen. Or in other words, the querent is not in the view of the friend, or put simply, she forgot. This blindness that the planets have to each other also prevents direct aspects from occurring that would give us the event of the friend paying back the money. However, there are other ways that the chart can show us the querent getting her money back. For instance, a collection of light and a translation of light. In order to not make this video too long, I will just briefly discuss these two concepts. A translation of light occurs when a faster moving planet aspects one planet than directly aspects another, thus translating the light between the two. For instance, if we were to freeze all of the planets apart from Mars, it would have just separated from a square with the Sun at 13 degrees, then it would go on to make a sextile with Mercury at 18 degrees. This would connect the querent to the friend's money. However, since the planets are moving, this is not possible. Another possibility is the collection of light. A collection of light occurs when two faster planets aspect a slower moving planet. The slow planet acts like a basket, bringing the two planets together. For instance, here Jupiter could potentially act as a collection of light between Mercury and the Moon. When Mercury reaches 22 degrees of Capricorn, it makes a trine to Jupiter. And when the moon hits 22 degrees of Sagittarius, it would make a square to Jupiter. Thus, Jupiter would connect the querent to the friend. However, before reaching 22 degrees, the moon will run into Saturn, which prohibits the moon from aspecting Jupiter. Saturn here acts like a brick wall, preventing the collection of light from occurring. So far, it's not looking too good for the querent. The friend has forgotten, none of her planets can be seen by the friend, and we have none of the other planets that seem to want to help us. However, there is one more way that the chart can show us the event occurring, and that's by antiscion. Antiscion is from the Greek word for shadow. Every degree on the zodiac has its antiscion degree, so every point in the zodiac has a shadow or reflection at another point. The anticia or reflection of a planet acts just as it does in the bodily position. However, we only consider conjunctions or oppositions to the anticia of a planet. This concept seems bizarre at first, however it is extremely important for accurate judgment. So let's look at anticia and see if this will give us the event. The way I like to quickly estimate the anticia of a planet is by placing an imaginary mirror between the start of Capricorn and the end of Gemini. Then we can look at the reflection across this axis. For instance, a planet in Capricorn will have its anticia in Sagittarius. Aquarius will have it in Scorpio, Pisces in Libra, and so on. In order to get the degree position, we must subtract the current bodily degree from 30. For example, the Sun is at 13 degrees of Aquarius, so its anticia will be at 17 degrees of Scorpio. And as the Sun moves anti-clockwise along the zodiac, the anticia of the Sun will move clockwise. Venus is at 12 degrees of Capricorn. Its anticia will be at 18 degrees of Sagittarius. A conjunction between the Moon and Venus would give us the event. However, Saturn is in the way again. But Mercury is at 18 degrees and 18 minutes of Capricorn, so its anticia is at roughly 11 degrees and 40 minutes of Sagittarius. At this position, nothing gets in the way of the Moon. The Moon has a direct path to Mercury, and so we have our event, a connection between the querent as Mercury and her friend as the Moon. Now, the question specifically asks, when will I get the money? We can use the conjunction between the Moon and the anticia of Mercury to figure out the time for this event. The anticia of Mercury is at 11 degrees and 40 minutes of Sagittarius, but they're both moving towards each other. And the aspect perfects at 11 degrees of Sagittarius. This means that the Moon has to travel roughly 9.5 degrees from its current position to make contact with the anticia of Mercury. This gives us 9.5 units of time. We then look at the qualities of the applying planet to determine the time frame. The Moon is in a mutable sign and a cadent house, so this gives us a medium timescale. We have 30 degrees in which an aspect could occur, so a maximum timescale of 30 months seems unrealistic. So weeks would be our maximum. This makes our medium timescale days. So the chart shows the friend giving the money back in 9.5 days. The outcome as presented in the book is as follows. The querent, not hearing from the friend, sent an email to her exactly 9 days later, and her friend said she had indeed forgotten, but she swore she had remembered it just before the querent's email and was amazed at the synchronicity. She promised that she would do it the next morning. The following morning, 9.5 days later, the querent received the payment. Now let's look at how the author read this chart. He simply makes far too many points to go through them all, but I'll try and give a general overview. Essentially, what this author does is he tries to find as many possible testimonies as he can for and against, no matter how abstract he has to go. For instance, here he has decided that Mercury making a trine to the natural ruler of wealth is a relevant testimony to this question. Then, if the number of positive testimonies outweighs the negative, he judges favorably for the querent. The author himself even states that he's not sure when it will happen, because he's confused the entire picture with a mishmash of random statements. He tries to find the time by the moon perfecting a sextile with the sun in conjunction with Saturn at 13 degrees. But why would this show the event? The moon is the friend and the sun is the friend's pocket. So how would the friend hitting her own pocket show the querent getting her money back? Mercury perfects a trine with Jupiter in 4 degrees is also irrelevant. Jupiter does not represent anything here. The sun sextiles Saturn. But what is Saturn here, and how is that relevant? Venus trines Jupiter. Again, what is Jupiter here? It doesn't mean anything. He then goes on to say that since the querent thought that it was a matter of days, because she was determined to notify her friend if she didn't settle the matter soon, that he told her on average it would take a week more or less. This is an unclear judgment using a mishmash of unrelated testimonies that are at best too abstract and at worst completely irrelevant. Furthermore, the whole concept of his analysis is deeply flawed. The way the author reads the chart is that if positive testimonies outweigh the negative, then the outcome is favorable for the querent. However, in horary we are looking at an objective view of the situation. Following the author's logic, we may conclude that what the querent wants is objectively positive, but I'm sure that we all know from our own experience that what we want is not always good or positive. I may desire the money, but perhaps receiving the money is bad for me. I may use it to fund a crippling addiction. Then who's to say that the chart showing an overall positive vibe is not that I don't receive the money? To read the chart in this manner, the author suggests that we make a value judgment that we're not qualified to do. Instead, the clearest path forward is to understand the language of the chart, identify the characters, and see what they're doing. This tells us what they're up to and gives us insight into what might happen and when. But of course, all is subject to the will of God. In addition, his approach highlights a fundamental lack of understanding of the quality of each of the testimonies. Not all testimonies are equal in weight and can be compared against one another like he has done. It's like comparing apples to oranges. The author clearly doesn't understand what kind of picture the chart is painting. Using the author's method, we have 20 positive statements and 10 negative ones, so we conclude that I'm not quite sure what will happen or how, but you'll get the money back, but I'm not sure when. Using a solid understanding of the language of the chart and the philosophy of astrology, we say that the moon and sun do not behold Mercury and Venus, so your friend has indeed forgotten, and the moon conjuncts the antiscion of Mercury in 9.5 degrees, so you will get your money back in 9.5 days. This method is the clearest path to accurate and consistent reading of any chart. Remember to like and subscribe to stay up to date with more videos. Check out my Instagram to get some behind the scenes and updates on future videos, and check out idrisastrology.com to book a consultation of your own if you have a question that you want answered. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.